Matt, you are taking shift left one step further. You're calling it start left. Is that just a label? Do you just want to get attention, or what is start left?
Well, yes, and. So, of course, we always want to get attention, right? But I think fundamentally what that means to me is that you can't just come up with processes like DevSecOps and DevOps. You actually have to bring cultural shift and organizational shift to make sense. So as you're building your scrums and your teams, security, along with your developers and your SREs and your ops teams, need to be in it from the beginning together as they're building things out, as opposed to in the DevOps model, where security comes later. You have Dev and Ops together, your SREs, you build this app, and then security comes in and gives you all these rules that you need to go back and look at. So shifting left sort of implies you pick those people up and move them over. But I think fundamentally, it's about rethinking how you do these processes. How do you build these squads? How do you build these guilds, right, to effectively deliver things where security is a core part? And to me, I draw the parallel to what we have done with DevOps when we brought monitoring and logging sort of as the key principal pieces. We said, hey, we need the developers and the people that do the monitoring and logging tools to come together, right? So that's happened in DevOps for a couple of years now. This is the same concept. We have to think about that with the security folks too. Again, not having it be an afterthought. So it's really about starting at the beginning with everyone on the same page, as opposed to just really shifting someone into the room.
And theoretically, that sounds great. But in a practical world, I know how creative developers can get when it comes to circumventing something that annoys them. How do you deal with that?
Well, I mean, so there's multiple ways that you have to deal with it. I mean, so one, there certainly is a cultural aspect, right? Because it's educating and culturally changing your organization to accept the security pieces, right? And that's a longer term piece. From a technology perspective, the notion of separation of duties, being able to say, here's a set of policies. If you as a developer are defining a microservice that's going to run in our PCI compliant application stack, you will use these policies attached to it, and you can't change them because you won't be able to deploy. Sure, you may be able to deploy and play around with it on your laptop, but for it to get into any of our architecture, because the way our policy management works is it's just sitting there. I really draw a parallel to mobile device management that we all have on our phones and our laptops. So when I try to change my password, I can't get around the password rules that IBM has defined for me on my password, or I can't install an app that I'm not allowed to install on my iPhone because of the mobile device management rules. Yeah. So it's really a similar concept. That's the simple way I think about it. So you really can't get around it. The developer would have to go a long way and probably get themselves to the point of almost getting fired from most companies to really circumnavigate this stuff. But I do think it goes back to that cultural shift, because at the end of the day, draconian walls, right, will get you somewhere. It'll make sure that we don't have problems, which is key in security. But the culture of DevSecOps, where we're actually all sitting at the table together, is really where we want to get to, because that's how we're going to be most efficient in delivering applications.
Yeah, and that culture is fine, and I agree with all of that while I'm sitting at the table. But then later, when I need to improvise something real quick to get home earlier to my kids, right? Because yesterday I was already late, so that will be a different story. And that's where automation comes in, and we'll talk about that in a separate video.